Hi guys, and welcome back to World of Tanks, and today we are looking at the last of the comic book hero tanks. It is the Tier 6 British Premium Heavy Tank, the British Bulldog Churchill VII. That's where the 7 comes from. Now, what is it? Well, it's a Churchill VII with a bit of armour removed off the tracks at the front, which doesn't seem to make any difference to the actual armour figures, by the way. And yeah, there isn't much different, to be honest. It is pretty much an upgraded Churchill VII. The gun is slightly different, and the turret traverse is 2 degrees slower than a fully upgraded Churchill VII, and of course it has the premium bonuses and preferential matchmaking, so it doesn't see higher than tier 7, and to be honest, I don't think it even needs it. I really don't think it needs preferential matchmaking, and yeah, that's it really. So that's the difference. Slightly different gun and preferential matchmaking, and the bonuses, which, while we're talking of the bonuses, are 45% silver bonus and a 30% XP bonus. Now, I think the TOG gets something like 38% silver bonus, so 45, yeah, it's not too bad. However, it does all come at a price, unfortunately. Not a price in the armour or the gun, which is good news for once, but a price in the actual price. It is, well, the package that's on at the moment is about 8,500 or so. Very expensive for a tier 6, and even its listed Tankopedia price, 6,360 gold, which is, let's be honest, ridiculous for a tier 6. Let me put that into perspective for you. The TOG 3, tier 6 British, sorry, TOG 3, TOG 2, I can't even get my numbers right tonight. Tier 6 British Heavy, 3,500 gold. The Boilermaker, I think, was listed around 3,000 odd gold. The Panzer IVS Tier 6 German medium tank, 3,750 gold. So, at over 6,000 gold for this Tier 6, yeah, I get the feeling you're paying for that preferential matchmaking. And like I say, it doesn't really feel like it needs it at all, and I shall show you why in a moment when I look at the Tech Tree Churchill 7's guns. Either that, or instead of paying for the preferential matchmaking, Wargaming has started charging you per armour thickness, so you're paying so many gold per millimetre of armour, because, you know, has got 152 mil of armour on the front, whereas the TOG's 114. Could be that, I don't know. Anyway, let's move on. Now, the gun that's mounted on this is actually called the 75mm gun Mark V, and if you been through the British line, that's going to scare you when I say that, but don't worry, it doesn't behave like that gun. In fact, it is that gun in name only. Let's have a quick look at it before we look at the actual British Bulldog guns. Now, here we are, 75mm gun Mark V on the Tech Tree Churchill, 20 rounds a minute, 91, 110. It is not that. It does have that aim time of 1.9 seconds, which is better than the upgraded guns, but unfortunately it has more or less that accuracy at 0.40, whereas this is 0.41. But like I say, fear not, it is not this gun, only in name only. It actually behaves like this gun, apart from the aiming time and the accuracy. Aiming time, thankfully; accuracy, unfortunately, I would rather have the 0.36. But yeah, that's what it behaves like, and you only actually lose a tiny bit of penetration and damage for having that gun on it over the quickfire 77mm that you get fully upgraded on the Churchill Tech Tree Churchill 7. When I can get my words out. So yeah, you basically lose 3 pen on your standard rounds, 6 pen on your premium rounds, and 5 damage. So yeah, really not worth it. And I know I was up to the Churchill 7 on my British Heavies, but I'm going to skip it and go to the Black Prince, and basically for gameplay tips use this one because it is so very similar. So let's have a look at the actual gun then. Well, you get 15 rounds a minute. There was some confusion yesterday, partly caused by myself, partly Wargaming. On the website it did say 15 rounds a minute, 4-second aiming time. In game it said 20 rounds a minute, 3-second reload time, sorry, not aiming time. I went, rightly or wrongly, from the information that I was given in game. I probably should have checked it when I was actually playing the game, And I probably confounded the situation more by not having 100% crew in the tank. So yeah, there was that. Like I say, rightly or wrongly, I went off the information I was given in the game because the website has been wrong before. And when I went on this earlier, there was a small update, and it's all changed now. So it is 15 rounds a minute, which is still better than the top gun, the quickfire 77mm on the Tech Tree 1, and better than the 75mm Vickers high velocity as well. 145 pen and 135 damage on your standard rounds, which, like I say, you lose 3 over the quickfire 77. 202mm on your APCR, which is your premium ammunition, with the same 135 damage, and then 38 175 for your HE rounds. 1.9 second aiming time, which is like the actual 75mm gun Mark 5, and 0.40 accuracy, again very similar. Hull rotation speed, or hull traverse, is 20 degrees a second, same as the Churchill VII Tech Tree, and the turret traverse is 30 degrees a second, which is 2 degrees slower than the Tech Tree version. Same view range at 370 metres, same fairly poor signal range at 550. Also, I say poor, it's probably about average for the tier, knowing my luck. Now, supplies wise, 100 for your normal rounds, 2,800 for your APCR, and 56 for your high explosives, so not bad there, to be honest. Equipment, I've gone for gun rammer, gun lane drive, and vents, and I've got my reload time down to about 3.38 seconds. So yeah, getting up there for towards that 20 that it was listed as yesterday. So yeah, a bit of a cock up there. Like I say, I'll take some responsibility, but I've got to dish some of that responsibility out to Wargaming as well. Crew, well, I've got my Boilermaker crew in there, as you can see. Jim White, you just get a standard crew with this, no special skills or anything like that, not even a single skill on them, so got rid of them, and I've put my Boilermaker crew in there because these are actually shared with my FV215B as well, tier 10 British Heavy, so I'd like to get them done up a bit. However, to start with, I would say you probably want some sort of skills like this one, so Sixth Sense, track mechanic, repairs, and clutch braking, and then probably brothers in arms, I would say would help. And then once you've got those, maybe possibly snapshot. Smooth ride is very good at firing on the move already, so smooth ride would help with that. Possibly even the ground one. My mind's just gone complete brain fart. Yeah, the one that helps you go across the ground. I cannot remember which one it is. Off-road driving, that's it, I just remembered. Yeah, complete brain fart. Anyway, right, where were we? Modules, I suppose. I think that's about it. I have mentioned that. Have I mentioned preferential matchmaking? Yes, I have, because I said it doesn't need it. And I feel like that's what you're paying nearly double the cost of a normal tier 6 premium for. So, yeah, bit irksome. But anyway, you've got the same underpowered 350 horsepower engine in this bad boy. Yes, that's right. Not a shining point in the British heavy tank line. You know, I quite like the Churchill VII. I quite like the Black Prince. I like the toughness of it. I like the fact that you give it a bit of an angle. If you get caught out in the middle of the field, you can angle it and you can bounce shots all day long. In fact, I've got one that I do that in. I'm angled against 2 tanks on opposite sides of me at the same time, which is quite fun. But yes, very underpowered engines, unfortunately. My history is not brilliant, so whether these were originally intended as infantry support tanks, and obviously are slower to keep up with marching infantry, I don't know. That could be the case. It could just be a crap engine, but I don't know. Like I said, I'm not a historian. But it is a big old engine block at the back, and unlike a lot of the tanks in the game, the tracks actually go around part of the hull, so they're not separate on the side of the hull extends into the middle of the tracks. They are not track plates on the side like you would get on, say, the M6 or the Mutant 6. They are actually the side of the hull, the plates in the middle of the tracks. So the engine does spread into there. It is a big old engine to hit. You've got a very poor top speed of 20 kilometers an hour. It's something you're going to have to get familiar with the, well, not familiar with, come to terms with the British heavies up to about tier 8, unfortunately. So yeah, power to weight ratio 8.64. 20 kilometers an hour top speed, 12 in reverse, which again isn't brilliant. With quite a poor 20% chance of fire. That's actually, I think, the highest there is. Now, the gun itself, I've already covered that it's not the gun that it says. It's more like the Vickers High Velocity. But you've got a very good elevation of 20 degrees a second and an absolutely fantastic gun depression of minus 12.5. However, it is not over the front of the tank. It is only over the side. Over the front, I don't know, I'm guessing maybe 7 or 8. It goes down a hell of a lot when you move it over the side of the tank, so that 12.5 degrees, yeah, a bit of a fib. It is only over the side. While we're here as well, concealment is 0.15 stationary and 0.09 moving, which is slightly higher than the standard Tech Tree Churchill, and I'm assuming that that's to account for its camouflage, basically, because you can't put any on. Tracks will act as a bit of spaced armour, but we'll cover that. Your terrain resistance is a 1.1, 1.3 and 2.3, so not brilliant. Off-road driving, maybe put that on there, but I would say you want those other skills I mentioned first, then maybe smooth ride, snapshot, and then off-road driving if you're going to go for that. I'd say clutch braking is more important on this one. Turret on top, we'd expect it. Quite a small turret ring as well underneath. Radio is quite large and takes up the whole back of the turret almost. Ammunition blocks are in the side of the hull, in the middle of the tracks, and there's actually a really good and easy way of telling where they are, and I'll show you that back on the damage model after we've looked at the ammunition. There is also one in the centre of the hull, but that's quite a hard one to get to. Now, crewman, as you can see, so you have to get through a crewman first. Well, you've got driver and assistant driver down in the actual front of the hull. I'm assuming they may have him counted as a radio operator. They sometimes do, even though the radio's not near him. And then you've got the commander under the commander's cupola, which is very, very, very small. And you've got the loader and the gun up there as well. Armour-wise, right, it's not too bad. It's a bit more accurate than the Churchill 1 because that says 178, but it's only one small patch. On the front, we actually have 152 millimeters on the front, what I can go the right way, of the hull and the turret. 95 on the side of the hull and the turret, and then the rear is 51 on the hull, 95 on the turret. And as you can see, yeah, there are no real weak spots on the front. There are a couple, but I've got to admit, it is a very tough tank from the front. The weak spots are not obvious, and sometimes your best bet is basically outflank it. But you do have to be careful because the turret traverse can catch you out, and it's caught me out before, and I've had it catch people out before. Anyway, 120 is the front deck, the whole top of the turret, top of the commander's hatch, the engine deck, and the rear half of the turret floor, along with the tracks, and the tracks do act as a mount of spaced armour. You've got your drive wheels and your rear rollers, maybe, not sure. I don't know if the drive wheels are at the front or the back on this. I think they're actually at the back. But yeah, they will act as spaced armour. 21 to 30, it's quite patchy. It's the front half of the floor of the hull, or the front portion, the lower rear glacis, and the extreme rear sides through the actual tracks themselves are included in that thinner spot. So that bit there is a bit of a weaker spot to hit if you are struggling from the side. Maybe you're a lower tier, maybe it's a bit of a distance. 31 to 50, again, it's the rear of the tank itself, and then small patches of plates at the front of the tracks, at the rear of the tracks. That angle that's actually sloping down there towards the right is actually part of the hull inside the tracks. So if you have got an angle to it, you can hit that bit. There is a small gap there. It's very tricky, and to be honest, if you've got that sort of angle, you want to be going for the side of the turret or the side of the tracks themselves. 51 to 70, again, that's actually part of the hull in there, and that is the sloped part of the upper glacis that goes back to meet the flattened panel in front of the driver and the assistant driver there. And also two thin strips run along the side of the tank, behind the tracks, around the commander's cupola, and around the top of the turret itself. 71 to 90, two thin strips along the tops of the sides of the hull. They are covered by the track covers though, so if you shoot through the track covers, there is a chance you might be able to put it through there, but again, there's better options to go for. 91 to 120 is the sides and the rear of the turret itself. Thin strip across the top and the bottom of the lower glacis there, and the sides of the hull proper, which actually are like track plates, but they're not, so that is the side of the hull. And then 121 to 160 is the lower glacis, the flattened upper plate in front of the driver, and the front of the turret itself is just all over 152, and it basically, it's mantleless, but it is just seemingly 152 all over the front, apart from those two bumps, which is somewhere between the region of 191 to 230, so whatever you do, don't hit the bump either side of the gun. Now, weak spots. The turret is very, very thin, up to 20 millimeters, so a 60 millimeter could possibly overmatch that slope on the front of the turret, as long as it's not, you know, you're not using your gun depression, because it make it very difficult to hit. If you can, get it into the sloped upper glacis, the bit that slopes backwards. If you're close enough, the machine gun port doesn't show as a weak spot, so it is very, very tough from the front, and sometimes, I'm afraid, if you simply cannot pen it through the front, if you don't have enough penetration, you've just got to try and track it and outflank it, and that's probably going to be your best bet. Ammo racks, well, just in between that spare track on the side and that hatch. Either side is an ammo rack, or through that bit of spare track, you'll hit the ammo rack, so that's a really easy way of telling where it is. And same on the CptBeard Churchill, and these extra tracks do not act as extra armour, which is a little bit disappointing from this comic book tank. The Boilermaker, for instance, tracks all over that, they act as it. There's a lot of tanks that have the tracks act as spaced armour, but on this they don't, unfortunately, so slightly disappointing, but not too bad. Anyway, let's get into the replays and see how it actually handles. Right, so here we are for the first of the replays. It's a tier 7 match, Serene Coast, and it's a standard battle. Now, not a brilliant match from my point of view, but I put this one on to show you this is pretty much an average match for me in this tank, and it's capable of great things. And I know that sounds daft, because just about every tank in the game is capable of great things in the right hands. Now, what I mean by that is that it's kind of very dependent on choosing the right route first. And anybody who's been through the British heavy line, anybody who's been in something like the T28 or the T95, the Doom Turtle, anybody who's been down the British AT line will know this. If you pick the wrong direction to go in at the beginning of the match, and it just so happens that basically not many enemies go that way, you're pretty much in trouble for having a good match, because you're not going to get back across the battlefield at any speed. For instance, if you're in something, say, the Liberté just springs to mind. You know, it's a quick machine. You choose one direction at the beginning of the match, and it turns out not many enemies go that way, and they all end up the other side of the map. You can get across there quick enough to actually do something, you know, and do something about it, hopefully. In this, you can't. You're just not quick enough with the 20 km/h top speed, and this is one of those matches where I picked a direction. Not a tremendous amount of enemy tanks go there, and the ones that do, it just ends up bad for me anyway, but it's a pretty average match. The next match, it looked as though I went the wrong way at the beginning of the match, and it actually turned out pretty good. And the next match is a really quite a good match in this, not quite as good as that guy had yesterday when I put the video of this up in the random destruction, but it's still a pretty damn good match. Now, because I know some of you don't watch the garage bit, just a quick reiteration of what I said in the garage. The price of this is very expensive. It's just over 6,300 silver, and that's the listed Tankopedia price, which is, you know, it's getting on towards double the price of most other tier 6 premiums. I use the TOG as an example, 3,500, Panzer 4S 3,750, I think it is. So it is expensive, and I do kind of get the feeling that you're paying for the preferential matchmaking. It doesn't particularly need it, in my opinion. You've only got 3 less penetration on your standard rounds over a fully upgraded CptBeard Churchill, and 6 less on your premium rounds, and 5 less damage on both. So, oh, and you've got just over a round a minute faster rates of fire as well, at 15 rounds a minute. So I don't, like I say, I don't feel that it particularly needs that preferential matchmaking, and I feel like that's what you're paying for. Now here, you can see that gun depression is just not as good over the front of the tank, and as I move the gun sideways it starts to drop down again. I've been tracked on top of this rise, and I just can't quite get my gun down over the front to hit this Tiger. I might be able to hit the KB-13 though. Yeah. There we go. Now I've got my track up. Try and put one into him and start moving before I get tracked again. Too late. Now, that Tiger, if he's, I think he looks like he's got the short 88 now. I think the short 88 on the Tiger is now 145 pen, because it got buffed on the Tiger and on the 3601H. Yeah, I didn't really want to turn to go after that Comet, because I didn't want to expose the weakest of my armour, because I'm now getting hit from that BDR as well. But I needed to take out the Tiger, but the KV-13's making a run. I can't turn to get my frontal armour towards him, and even if I did, yeah, he might just have enough pen to get through, possibly 50-50. But anyway, that one fortunately ended up a victory for us, so quite happy with that. Pretty much an average round, 1400 damage, 1500 damage, anywhere from about 11 to 1800 damage is a pretty average round in this for me. And yeah, there you go. So I went one way, just, you know, it didn't really happen, and ended up coming, I think it was third on the list. So I've basically put this in because, you know, as somebody did say about sometimes maybe YouTubers like myself make these tanks look a lot better than they are. So I've put that one in because it is a pretty average round, so you'll get an idea of, you know, what you could expect. I've had a very poor round in this where I didn't really do much, got about 900 damage, and that was your lot. Arty will like to try and go for you because you're large engine deck, but you have got the slightly thicker side armour at 95, so there's not many at tier 6 and 7 that would be able to reliably pen the side of your tank, which is fortunate. But anyway, here we are. It's another tier 6 match. It's another standard battle, and this time it's on live oaks. And with me being a top tier heavy and very, very good at side scraping, well, this tank is very, very good at side scraping. I'm not. I'm not bad, but yeah, not very good. I was going to go to the town. I thought it would be the sensible place to go on live oaks. Leave the bridge sort of railway side to whatever was going there, and I don't know, it looked as though there were that many tanks going towards the town, and with me being that slow, what quite often happens is if your teammates are fairly proficient, if I'd have followed those, they could have gone through the town, started killing off tanks, and by the time I get there, I'm going to get a couple of hits on the dregs. Match will be over. That has happened as well before. Not in the British Bulldog, but when I've had the Churchill VII, the Churchill I, the Black Prince, I have had that happen. So that's why I've turned around to come this way. Plus, there weren't, I don't know, there weren't overly many. There's a tank destroyer, heavy, medium and a light tank. There could have been quite a decent push down this way. About half the team were accounted for over near the town, which has potentially left the other half to come this way. So I thought I'd give it a try. Plus, I'm going to take a risk and I'm going to go down this side of the railway instead of the other, which is risky, because if I'm in within render range for anybody over near the town, I could start taking hits in my left hand side. So it is a bit of a risk. And while I'm trying to actually get to something, I don't mind, like I said, I don't mind this tank. I'm not particularly keen on the Churchill I. The weak turret, you know, the strong hull weak turret thing, it kind of does annoy me sometimes. And I find it even worse on the Churchill I because he's so slow. I mean, it's faster than this, but it's still, you know, it's still slow. And I found the Churchill VII quite manageable. I found in tier 6 and 7 matches, in tier 7, as long as you played a bit more cautiously, maybe medium range, the armour can stand up quite well. It did struggle a bit in tier 8s, but this does not see tier 8s. And yeah, like I said, I didn't mind it. I find it a tough machine, just like the Black Prince is incredibly tough if you're side scraping or if you angle it properly. But with the over the 6,000 gold price, I'd find it hard unless you absolutely love the Churchill VII or you really want all the comic book tanks. I just find it a bit difficult to say, yeah, it's a great tank. You know, it's worth the money. You know, it's not a bad tank. Some people would say it's not a great tank, and you know, I can't argue with that. It is what it is. You like it or you don't like it. I don't particularly mind it, but I I'm finding it very difficult to say that it's worth it at that price. I feel that maybe, I don't know, I think it should have been closer to the sort of 3,750 mark of the other tier 6 premiums, maybe 4,000 if they wanted to make it that little bit more because of the preferential matchmaking, 4,200 maybe, but I think at over 6,000, yeah, I am struggling to say that it's worth it. But then again, it's not my money, is it? You know, I've paid my money for it. I'm showing you guys what it can do, what it's like, what it's capable of, and it's up to you to decide whether it's worth it for you. Now, I am in a spot of bother here. Managed to take out the LC, but I'm angled fairly well. So I am bouncing the shots from whatever it is up there. I think it might be an M4, did it say? Knocked my tracks off. Yeah, it could have been him. And that's exactly what I mean about the angling. You get caught out in the open like that, you get it at the right angle, and at that distance, tier 5s, tier 6s are going to struggle. I mean, even with the, well, let's say the VK3601H, with the short 88, it's got 145 pen now, your frontal armour is 152. At close range, that's going to be sort of 50-50 to penetrate your frontal armour. At medium range, it's going to struggle. And if you then angle it properly, it's going to struggle even more. And as you can see there, I've had to move forwards because of that gun depression. I had enough over the side of the tank. I had to move forwards because as the 360H was moving across, my gun was coming across the front. Couldn't do it. And you'll see how I'm angled when I come out of this view. I'm sort of shooting over the front corner of my track. And that's more or less the angle you want to be. How I was against that easy 8 Sherman Jumbo there. But I've got the Jumbo one side, I've got the M4 on my left hand side, and I've managed to angle it against both of them at the same time because of, well, where they are in proportion to each other. And I'm surprised that they're not slinging more high explosive, although is he slinging high explosive? It looks like he is. He's figured out that that's probably going to be one of the only ways he's actually going to damage me. However, shooting them at the front, it's going to do very limited damage because of how thick the armour is. And he's now done. I'm not angled very well against the M4 anymore, but he has moved and tracked me. But that seems to be all he can do, is track me. And that's him done. And now, what we got? An OI and a captured KV-1. That's what's left. Oh, I'm not going to get back there in time. No chance. The only thing I could possibly do now is get into the cap circle before anybody else does, and hope that the other enemy heavy is too far away to actually get in there and join them in the cap circle if they do decide to do it. However, where is the other one? That's what I can't figure out. I've managed to get into the cap circle because that enemy heavy went after artillery, and if he'd not, and if he'd have just gone into the cap circle instead of going after that little bit more damage, they might have won this. But as it happens, I could win this. All I've got to do is hope that they're far enough away that they can't get back because I'm on very, very low health. And if that OI, or OI experimental was it, if they're firing HE, yeah, I could be in trouble from one of those. And I just don't know where they're going to be coming from. I could be in with a chance. I've got to wait 50 seconds, and it feels like the longest 50 seconds of my entire life. Right, they've decided to try and cap. Does that mean that the other one's going to go in the cap? But they still have enough time to out-cap me if two of them joined. Well, if not if two of them joined, but if the other one went in the cap and there were two of them, would they have enough time? It'd be very close. But if one's capping, is the other one on his way back? And if he hits me and even does the smallest amount of damage, that's going to reset my capping, and they could win by capping them because I'd have no way of getting back across the map to reset hour cap in time. Not a chance. If I only knew which way to angle to. Come on. And nothing. Huh. I wonder where the other heavy was. I wonder if he was on his way back, and I wonder possibly if he'd managed to flip himself, and that's why he didn't turn up. But yeah, a nice little win for me. I was quite happy with that one. Came out of that looking quite well with a high caliber. A mastery badge, well, an ace tanker. A devastator, a top gun. Was that cool-headed? Fairly easy one to get, I think. See a lot of those. And an invader as well. 2,754 damage done and 1,910 blocked. 81,000 credits, and that's with no ops as well. So yeah, really happy with that result. And that's what I mean. That's what it can be capable of if things just come together right. You learn the angling for it, and you basically know what you can and can't take. But there you go, British Bulldog. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope it's informed you, and you might be able to make a decision now on whether you'd actually like to buy it. And I'll be back tomorrow with another video. So until then, take care out there, and I will catch you next time. See you later. Oh, and good luck in Tank Bowl, by the way.